May God, who has begun this good work in you, bring it to fulfillment.
In today's liturgy, we celebrate Palm Sunday, and we begin with the procession into the church. And this procession into the church mirrors the procession of Jesus into Jerusalem. And that particular reading is what we're going to hear at the very beginning of this liturgy. And so we've heard this story every year. Jesus asks for his disciples to go and retrieve a donkey tied to a post. They're called to untie it. And if anyone is asking why they're doing this, Jesus tells them to say, "The Lord, the Master, has need of it." In our own lives, Jesus clearly asks us to do special things and to come out of ourselves. And so in this way, we're a lot like the donkey. We're called out of ourselves, and we're called to do something special because the Lord has need of us and our unique abilities. The donkey, though, first is tied to a doorpost or some piece of wood, and we can imagine that we're tied to certain things as well, like the donkey. Maybe we're tied to a sinful habit, and an addiction of some kind of bad habit that's keeping us from realizing our true potential with the Lord and with Jesus in our lives. And so we first have to be untied, and we have to allow ourselves to be untied. And that can only be done through the grace of God. And so we have to be accepting of that grace in our lives. If we can imagine the donkey being tied, he may have been comfortable. He may have had all the food he ever needed from his master. But it was only by being untied and given to Jesus that he was able to do something truly amazing with his life. He brought a king. He transported a king into the great city of Jerusalem. It's more than he ever could have imagined for himself. It's more than anything his old master could have picked for him. And so in this way, Jesus consecrates everything we do with our lives. And we can definitely see a parallel here between the donkey's action, being untied and receiving Jesus in some way, to receiving the Eucharist and receiving the power of Jesus through the sacraments. I encourage you to meditate on the donkey and the idea of worldly attachment. The next time you go up to receive communion, think about what the donkey may have been realizing. Wow, I'm carrying a king. I'm transporting a king. And this is something we hear in the verse, no one had ever sat on the donkey before. And so Jesus brings this unprecedented purpose to the donkey's life. Similarly, we find later in the story that the people spread their leafy branches, which they had cut from the fields. So we'll carry the palms, we'll have those in our hand. Those have been blessed, we'll carry those in the church to symbolize what happens here in Jesus' triumphal entry. And in the same way, the donkey had been kind of consecrated by Jesus and this divine purpose, the palms then have this dual meaning. They have this special second meaning. The people had cut them, they had worked in the field, and they had a purpose there. It was their livelihood to do the cutting and to do the retrieving of these palms, these branches. But they're given new meaning when they're laid before Jesus. They're laid before a king. They're signaling the entry of a king, of royalty, into Jerusalem. And so like the people who retrieve the branches and they cut them, we're called to do something special with the work we perform. That's what Jesus is asking us to do. Everything we do should point to Jesus in our lives. And so in your own lives, I encourage you to think about, what are the day-to-day things that I do? Maybe you're a student. Maybe you work a 9-to-5 job. Whatever you do, imagine how that might be consecrated and how the Lord might be asking you to put your unique gifts and your unique situation to good use, to fulfill a kind of divine purpose. Everything we do, again, should point to Jesus, this triumphal King as he enters Jerusalem, and remind us of the Passion, which is ultimately what this story begins. It's the beginning of Jesus's week of suffering and week of his passion, death, and ultimately his resurrection. We pray that you may look for the second meaning in your own life as you discern a vocation, and pray about what the Lord is asking you to do with your own unique gifts and the ordinary things in your life. May God bless, and have a blessed rest of the Lent and a blessed Holy Week.